Right, it's 8:30, and this meeting of the Sawyer County Zoning Committee is hereby called to order. Roll call, please.
Stacy Hessel,
Here.
Tweed Schuman,
Here.
Kay Wilson,
Here.
Michael Maestri,
Here.
John Righeimer.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The full statement of committee and hearing procedure document including directions for individuals wishing to speak at the public hearing, is to be conducted at the zoning committee meeting, are available in front of the room next to the agenda for today's meeting. The statement of committee and hearing procedure document is hereby incorporated into the record for this committee meeting. Any public hearing conducted at today's committee meeting has been published as a Class 2 notice in accordance with Chapter 985 of the Wisconsin statutes in the Sawyer County Record and the Sawyer County Gazette and posted. Sorry. Approval of the previous meeting minutes. I'm sticking.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Please note, comment time is intended for general public comments, not comments related to a specific application before this committee. Each agenda item requiring a public hearing will have its public hearing conducted just prior to the application being considered by this committee. If you wish to speak on a specific agenda item, we encourage you to hold your comments until then. And a reminder, you do only have 3 minutes for public comment. And we do have one.
Yeah, I have one public comment sheet from Linda Zomer.
Please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Linda Zolmer, Edgewater property owner, resident in the village of Birchwood, and I'm speaking to one of your new business items, and that it will be discussion of how this committee might consider a boat storage building in an RR1 zone district with a conditional use permit. And I want to explain the situation that came up under the previous zoning administrator, where a recreational business wanted to construct a boat storage building. And I think that allowing boat storage buildings should be in conjunction with an existing recreational business, but the conditions that should be placed on that should be protective of the groundwater and the neighbors. And so in order to do that and having it be a commercial use without being zoned commercial, it should require Department of Safety and Professional Services approved building plan. And so specifically the situation we had was Seasonal Power Toys that is on the border of the town of Edgewater, Sawyer County with the village of Birchwood. And the previous zoning administrator issued a land use permit for this building. The village of Birchwood appealed that decision. We found out that there was an approved DSPS plan. However, DSPS never followed through with having to require an impervious surface floor. So in the storage of that commercial use building, there are motors and vehicles with gas and oil and potential storage for barrels of solvents, anything else that could leak into the groundwater. So another condition I would ask you to consider if you would allow this is that there be a well-defined impervious surface floor with curbs and a drain system to contain any spills and to protect the groundwater. And Jay, is there anything else on there? I don't think my phone's, I don't want to keep within my 3 minutes.
Not standalone storage in conjunction with existing rec building, which you had stated.
Yeah. Oh, and to also set back from any municipal wells or private wells. And again, it has to do with protection of the groundwater. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments? Any online?
Hearing no hands raised, we'll move on to rezone applications. This is a public hearing, the town of Round Lake, rezone number 23-012. Owner JBT Properties LLC, part of the southeast one quarter, the northwest one quarter, section 1, township 41 north, range 8 west, parcel 0248410124002, tax ID 40156. It is 36.43 total acres, zone forestry 1. Purpose of the request is to rezone a 100-foot by 352-foot strip of land, which is 0.8 acres of F1 zone district to the A2 agricultural 2 zone district as part of a property sale to adjacent property owner. The sale is contingent on the rezone approval, and a new survey map would need to be filed with the approval of the rezone. As part of my staff report, again, the purpose of this request is to rezone a 100-foot by 352-foot strip of land from F1 to A2, and then to sell that strip of land to the adjacent property owner. For ease of explanation, we will refer to this piece of land as the strip. In conversations with the applicant, the rezone is needed to sell the strip to the neighbor to the south. Since JBT property is zoned F1 and the neighbor to the south, the Arnett's property is zoned A2, the only way the strip of land could be deeded to the neighbor would be to rezone the strip to the Arnett's current zone district and include the strip within a new certified survey map. Without the strip of land being rezoned, it would create a non-conforming zone district split. No additional lots are being created. They're just moving property line boundaries around with the proposed rezone. Conditions cannot be added onto the rezone. However, there are other dimensional standards within the ordinance that do still apply, that with the approval of the rezone zone district change on the strip, it would need to be absolved into the Arnett's property as one contiguous lot, or JBT will need to kind of absolve it into their existing agricultural 2 piece of land if for whatever reason that the sale of the property, was to fall through. The town of Round Lake comprehensive plan shows this area as private forestry, with the property immediately to the south as identified as agricultural. Both of the future land use areas in the area are similar, and that they both require and specifically require a minimum of a 5-acre lot minimum. With the proposed rezone, again, no additional lots are being created, and both resulting parcel sizes would be in excess of 5 acres. The majority of the surrounding land area is light residential and forestry, with agricultural and commercial on the east side of Highway 76. Which is
Next, yeah. It's okay.
That's Ron. He's listening. As part of action of the town board, motion was approved. Ralph Hansen, chair. Actually, no, it doesn't look like Ralph Hansen voted. Daniel Palmer, supervisor. Kay Wilson, supervisor. James Strandland, supervisor. Donald Stover, supervisor. Approved. Findings of fact 1 through 9 is identified in the staff report. Signed Kathy McCoy, town clerk. 3 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. 0 were returned with any additional comments. That is all.
Need a motion to go into public hearing. Oh, sorry. I need a motion to go into public hearing for the town of Round Lake rezone 23-012.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Mhm.
Okay, we're in public hearing. Is
The applicant.
okay. Is the applicant present? Thank you. You want to come up front and state your name and address and
Jane Schrader, 12210 W Tart Road, Hayward, Wisconsin.
anything you'd like to say in the public hearing?
I think that Jay did a fine job of explaining the whole situation. I have nothing to add at this time. I am open to questions if you have them, but otherwise I thank you for your vote and approval.
Sure, yep, I have a question. Ms. Schrader, what is the rationale for the strip?
I'm
I'm looking at the map right now, so I just want to understand that. And I'm
The-
familiar with this property, so
You're familiar with that?
just curious. Yep.
In the purchase of the surrounding property to Arnett's, they had a first right of refusal, and in agreement, we decided that we would deed them that strip to add to their property and just have them gain property, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. So we will have a new survey is scheduled already once we have this approval. to resurvey his property and the two around it. So we'll have a complete survey to provide to the county board at that time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's not part of the rezone, but the proposed survey map would also contain another 100 feet in this existing agricultural two land. So that 100 feet would run back out to the highway. So it's not just that little strip that they're purchasing. They're also doing that extra 100 feet here in the Ag 2. But that's not needed as part of the rezone. This is kind of an interesting one in that, you know, in order to purchase that little strip of land, because it is that split zone district, we really kind of need to get that strip into that same zone district that they would absolve into their lot, into their existing lot. An interesting one that we don't see often, but this I thought was the cleanest route to proceed with.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak in favor?
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of rezone 23-012? And anybody like to speak opposed to rezone 23-12? All right, I need a motion to come out of public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We are out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action, the town of Round Lake rezone number 23-012, owner JBT Properties LLC. Legal description is previously read into record. Purpose of the request is to rezone 100 feet by 352 feet from F1 to agricultural 2 in conjunction with a CSM to absolve that land into the Arnett's property to the south. Discussion.
Sorry. Discussion for rezone 23-12. Mr. Schuman, did you have a question? Your light's on.
Oh, no, I guess I'm ready to make that motion to approve rezone number 23-012 with the finding of facts 1 through 9. And Jay, could you reiterate your staff report that has any requirements of this?
Yeah, so I mean, the rezone can't contain any conditions. You know, there are other ordinance standards that would still apply, that if for some reason the sale of the property was to fall through and we had this, you know, rezone through the county board ratification, we at the zoning would still have some type of kind of an illegal zone district creation. It would almost have to require that JBT absolve this strip into their other agricultural two land or into the Arnett's land, because again, we wouldn't, again, kind of an interesting scenario, cat and horse type, or cart and horse and cart type of scenario where, you know, which one occurs first here. It is our hope that we have the survey ready at county board, and that with ratification of the rezone, we would also sign off on the CSM at the same time.
Sure. So it would include Jay's staff report, and then Ms. Wilson, whether there's anything the town of Round Lake Board had requirements on this. So that's my motion.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion. We have a second. Any other discussion? Did you need a roll call vote on that?
We generally do.
Okay. Ready when you are, Kathy.
Okay. Stacy Hessel,
Yes.
Kay Wilson. Yes. Tweed Schuman.
Yes.
Michael Maestri,
yes,
John Righeimer,
Yes.
all in favor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing in the town of Edgewater, conditional use permit number 23-026, owner S.A. Hayes LLC, agent Scott Steno of Buell Consulting, Inc., the northeast one quarter, section 24, township 37 north, range 9 west, parcel 008-937-241101, tax ID 8897. It is 40 total acres, zoned forestry 1. Purpose of the request is for the construction of a 400-foot telecommunication tower, including an additional 10-foot lightning rod. The tower will be owned by Vertical Bridges, the Tower LLC. The tenant of the tower will be Verizon Wireless. This is per section 17.8 parent B, parent 10 of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance and the Sawyer County zoning telecommunication ordinance. As part of my staff report, again, this permit is desired for a 400-foot telecommunication tower, including the 10-foot lightning rod. With the new changes of Wisconsin Chapter 66.0404 mobile tower siting regulations, including the changes in 2017 and 2019, counties are somewhat limited to local regulations as long as the applicant or mobile service provider complies with the provisions and regulations specified in 66.0404. The only element of the Sawyer County zoning telecommunication ordinance, at this point is be the utilization of the conditional use permit be required for the telecommunication facilities per the regulations established in 66.0404, the application process which a person must complete to engage in the siting, construction, or modification activities shall be in writing and shall contain the following information: name, business, and address of the contact individual of the applicant, the location of the proposed and affected support area, the location of the proposed mobile service facility. If the application is to construct a new service tower, that needs to be provided with a letter and a sworn statement from an individual who has the responsibility over the placement of the mobile support structure, attesting that co-location within the applicant's search ring is not feasible or economically burdensome. And if the application is to construct a new mobile tower, the construction plans which describes the proposed tower support structure and equipment and network components, including antennas, transmitters, receivers, base stations, power supplies, cabling, and related equipment shall be shown. The zoning administrator has deemed this application to be complete. Within 90 days of this application, which was received on August 25th, 2023, the political subdivision, which is Sawyer County, shall complete all the following of or the applicant may consider the application approved, which is to review the application, determine whether it complies with the applicable aspects of the political subdivision's building code. All those determinations have been tentatively approved by the Zoning and Conservation Department, including setbacks, floodplains, and other county ordinances, not subject to the limitations later described in my staff report. But then to make a final decision whether to approve or disapprove the application, notify the applicant in writing of its final decision. And if decision is to disapprove the application, we need to provide substantial evidence as to why we support a decision of denial. If the applicant provides a political subdivision with an engineering certification showing that the mobile support structure is to have a lesser fall zone distance, that applicant then can have a lesser setback. In this case, the proposed tower height is to be 410 feet and would be located 410 feet to the closest property line, which is Stony Hill Road. The applicant has not provided a fall zone letter, but the setbacks would not require this in this case. There would be no lesser setback than the 410 feet required as by the height of the tower. In conversations with these mobile towers and the consultants acting on those cases, most towers now are designed to have some type of fall zone, whether or not even an engineer has signed off on it or not. It's not proposed that a tower would fall a full 410 feet. It would at least break apart at some point. But again, in this case, they are 410 feet from the nearest property line, which is a town road. As part of my staff report is a list of possible conditions. A land use permit be required for the telecommunication tower prior to erection of that a separate site address or fire number is required for the tower. Prior to issuing the land use permit, the applicant or owner of the telecommunication facility shall provide a bond, irrevocable letter of credit, or other suitable financial guarantee as to ensure removal of the facility if it falls into disuse and restoration back to a pre-construction state in the amount of $20,000. And that all other town, county, state, and federal laws are followed, including town approval of the conditional use permit case, including also a driveway permit, and that the setback distance from the property lines be a minimum of 410 feet. As per action of the town board, motion was approved. Pete Baraboo, chairman, Scott Spaeth, supervisor, Jamie Scar, supervisor. No additional comments. Motion by Pete to approve. Second by Scott. Motion carried 3-0. No additional comments. Natalie Clements, town clerk. There were 4 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. None were returned or received with any additional comments. That is all.
Thank you, Jay. I seek a motion to go into public hearing for CUP 23-026.
Motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are in public hearing for CUP 23-026. Is the applicant here? Would you like to speak?
Yeah, my name is Scott Steno. I work for Buell Consulting. I am the agent for Vertical Bridge. I live in Wanakee, so it was a long drive up. Jay kind of spelled it all out for you. I don't have anything to add unless you have specific questions. As far as the access goes, we're utilizing a current access off of Stony Hill Road. We will be improving it, and then it will be another access off that further into the property that goes to the site. The site is a 100 by 100 square foot chain link fenced area for the tower itself. The tower is designed to accommodate 4 additional carriers so that no other towers will be necessary. We are connecting with 5G coverage to a tower that is northwest and west of the site, and then another one along Highway 42. This is a fill-in site.
I guess I have one additional question. Did the town mention anything about a driveway permit then? Or because there is somewhat of an existing access, did they talk about a driveway permit at all at the town level?
No.
Okay. I guess I would have you guys, make, I guess, communication back to them to see if that would be required prior to just, improving that access road in, just to make sure whether or not they're going to require an additional driveway permit there.
They probably will if they're going to require an E911 address. But I'll definitely check with them.
Yeah, so the county would issue the site address, but the individual town would issue a driveway permit to
Okay.
punch in a road, whether or not a culvert is needed. I do see that there is an existing access there, so maybe they'll say that, yes, there is an existing access. We don't need a new driveway permit, but I guess you as the applicant should figure that out with the town.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the applicant, the CUP? Anyone wishing to speak against the CUP? All right, I need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP 23-026.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, we are out of, do I have to say it?
Yep.
Yeah, all right, so we are out of public hearing for CUP 23-026.
This is the discussion action, the town of Edgewater conditional use permit number 23-026. Owner S.A. Hayes LLC, agent Buell Consulting Inc., working as Vertical Bridges, the Towers LLC, the tenant of the tower being Verizon Wireless. Legal description is previously read into record. Again, this request is for a 410-foot telecommunication tower, subject to the provisions of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance section 17.8, parent B, parent 10, and the Sawyer County telecommunication ordinance. Discussion by committee.
Discussion by committee? I think this falls in line with the plan or the people complaining that there's not cell service in that area. So
I'll make a motion to approve on findings 1 through 9 along with Jay's conditions.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
1 second in
Oh, I'm sorry,
discussion, Jay.
discussion.
Yep.
Thank you.
No,
I'm
you're
getting
okay,
used to
you're okay.
this.
Jay, just by making that motion with your requirements, does that cover all the limitations of a tower as well?
It does. And I guess the only other thing would be, is the applicant agreeing or is in agreement to the conditions that was specified in the staff report. Let the record reflect that the applicant is in agreement to the conditions.
Thank you for your patience. I'm not used to chairing, so
You're doing good.
thank you. All right, no further discussion? Right, could we please get a roll call vote?
Michael Maestri,
Yes.
Tweed Schuman,
Yes.
Kay Wilson. John Righeimer. Stacy Hessel,
Yes.
all in favor.
All right, moving on. This is the public hearing, the town of Round Lake conditional use permit number 23-027. Owner Xavier Cummins and Carly Somerville, southwest one half of the northwest one half of the northwest 1/4, section 32, township 41 north, range 7 west, parcel 024-741-322202, and parcel 2102. Tax IDs 26114 and 26112. They are each 20 acres for a total of 40 acres. They're both zoned forestry 1. Permit is desired to be able to allow horses in the forestry 1 zone district as per section 4.6 of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance with automatic requirements of this subsection. As per my staff report, in conversations with the owner, they are seeking a conditional use permit to allow horses on their newly purchased property, which is zoned forestry 1. As per the Sawyer County zoning ordinance, section 4.6 requires the granting of a conditional use permit with the following requirements. Horses shall be permitted only on lots where conditional use permits have been granted or on agriculturally zoned lands with town approval. In acting on a conditional use permit for horses, the zoning committee may impose such conditions as are necessary to secure the objectives of this chapter, included but not limited to the alteration, demolition, or reconstruction of existing structures within time frame limits established by the zoning committee, giving consideration to the purposes of the chapter. In addition to the general requirements of this chapter, any conditions imposed in approving the conditional use permit, each site shall conform to the following requirements: a minimum lot size of 5 acres. Again, this is a total of 40 acres on the property with the 2 lots. Number of the horses permitted. The maximum number shall be set by the conditional use permit and shall depend on the specific of the site characteristics and conditions of the permit. The characteristics to be considered shall include, but not limited to, access roads, equestrian trails, road conditions, streams and waterways, watersheds, vegetation, surrounding properties, slopes, and visual impacts. The applicant at this time is requesting for 2 horses. Stalls and corrals. New construction or remodeling of stalls shall be a minimum of 12 by 12 feet. Existing stalls shall be a minimum of 10 by 10 feet. All stalls shall have turnouts. Turnouts shall have water for horses. Each horse shall have a shelter available. Unknown stalls and corrals areas at this time. This would be as part of new construction anticipated as part of the conditional use permit. Boarding, up to 50% of the permitted horses may be boarded. Setbacks for any new stables at the time of construction, the stables shall be located not less than 20 feet from the nearest property line, recognizing that the zoning committee may require a greater setback distance in issuing the conditional use permit for the use based on the existing site conditions and surrounding site conditions. Turnouts and riding rings, fences shall be a minimum of 50 feet from the neighbor property line. Other setback requirements shall be defined by the county zoning ordinance. All new construction of stables or fencings really is to meet a 50-foot setback requirement at this point. A residence, there should be a full-time residence. Again, the applicant now does reside at this property. And then stallions, if there is to be stallions, fencing shall be 6 feet in height. Signs shall be posted on stall doors. Turnout gates and fences adjacent to trails, including a stallion of where a stallion is kept. The owner shall disclose on the stable permit that a stallion is on premise. No stallions are being requested. As part of conditions listed in my staff report, the CUP 23027 is to remain with the property and not just limited to the current owner. It would be anticipated that if someone's going to go through the procedures of installing a corral, installing, a riding area, installing a stable, that someone buying that property in the future would anticipate that, well, everything's set up for horses. Why would I not be able to have horses? So I would, in this case, have that CUP run with the property. The maximum number of horses not to exceed 2 unless additional conditional use permit is granted, and that no stallions would be allowed. Must meet all the provisions as specified in section 4.6 of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance, including that corrals, stables, and fencing to be a minimum of 50 feet from adjacent property lines, and that all other town, county, state, and federal laws are followed. As part of the motion of the town board, motion was approved. Ralph Hansen, Chairman, Dan Palmer, Supervisor, Kay Wilson, Supervisor, James Strandlin, Supervisor, Don Stover, Supervisor, all approved with the following conditions: limited to 2 horses, no stallions. CUP remain with the current owner or owners. Signed Kathy McCoy, Town Clerk. There were 4 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. None were returned with additional comments. That is all.
Thank you. I entertain a motion to go into public hearing for Town of Round Lake CUP 23-027.
I'll make that motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. We are now in public hearing for CUP 23-027. Is the applicant here?
My name is Xavier Cummings. I live at 10030 North McLean Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. As Jay said, he outlined it, I think perfectly. And as far as the permit, moving on to a next buyer, if we were ever to sell, I don't anticipate that ever happening. So that's, the only thing that came up in the town board meeting, but that really doesn't matter to me. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
And you're good with the conditions as listed in my staff report, that any fencing, stables, corrals be a minimum of 50 feet from the property lines? Yep.
Does the board have any questions?
I do, yeah. Mr. Cummings and Jay. So this couple approved Mr. Cummings to have up to 2 horses? What if they decide to get a 3rd horse?
Right. As listed in my staff report with the conditions, if they wanted to have an additional horse, they would have to come back in for a conditional use permit. And then we would have another public hearing process to add additional horses, unless the committee wanted to grant a larger maximum at this point. You have that discretion.
But we will allow them to board like up to 50%. So 1 horse they could board
You
along
could
with
board,
the 2?
yep, you could board 1 additional horse at that point.
You
Yep.
aware of all that, Mr.
Yep.
Cummings?
Do you have anticipation of ever having more than 2?
Not
Because now would be the time to do it, so you wouldn't have to come back and do this in another.
Right, you might have children.
maybe 1 more. If that's,
Okay.
but that would be years down the line.
Pardon me?
No stallions, right?
Nope.
Mr.
never.
Cummings?
I already have a mare. I don't. have a
This is an
stallion.
impressive ordinance.
Yeah, and we don't see it often.
I like it.
But there are, occasions where, someone not in an agricultural zone district would like to have horses. We did, carve that out. And this is probably, something that we've seen maybe 3 times in the 15 years that this has been in ordinance. So.
Mhm. And you've got some open land there, right? I'm familiar with that
Correct.
property.
Yep. Yeah, and there's a few hunting clearings too that are
Yep.
kind of available to make work. So
And you'll provide shelter for these horses?
correct. Yep. We're planning on this spring new construction on we have a portable shelter which we can bring in and have 12 by 12 stalls, but we want to build a permanent one hopefully next spring and summer.
How about water them this winter? Do you have a setup?
Yep. Yeah,
That's
there's a
gonna work?
well in the property. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody wish to speak in favor of CUP 23-027? Anyone wishing to speak and oppose to CUP 23-027? Okay. Hearing none, make a motion to come out of public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action, Town of Round Lake conditional use permit number 23-027, owner Xavier Cummings. Legal description is previously read into record. This permit is required or desired as per section 4.6 of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance to allow of keeping of horses within the forestry zone district. In any type of motion as by the committee, I think there are a few things that you need to kind of address. One of them is, does CUP 23-027 go with just the current property owner, or does it go with the property in general? And then also as the maximum number of horses. We had heard from the applicant that, it might be anticipated that 5-10 years down the road, they would, look at a 3rd horse. The zoning committee certainly has the discretion as to, specify a condition not to exceed 3 horses. So I guess just keep that in mind through the discussion and whoever would be to make a motion.
Excuse me, Jay, would it have to go back to the town then if we increased it to 3 horses?
It wouldn't necessarily, as per how that ordinance is written. I mean, the zoning committee can set different conditions. Towns are recommendations. And I don't foresee the issue of 2 versus 3. Now, if someone was to say, instead of 2, I want 8, I think that might be a pretty big, increase. But 2 to 3 on a 40-acre tract of land or even a 20-acre tract of land, I don't see a huge increase there. We do have legal counsel on there as well, if she wants to chime in, but ultimately that's not how, the publication went out. The publication went out as for keeping of horses in the forestry zone district. It did not specify a number as part of the publication. That number is to be determined by the zoning committee for the maximum amount allowed.
Okay.
Rebecca, did you want to add anything?
Just a quick question. So Jay, in your staff report, it says for a possible condition, maximum number not to exceed 2. Did that go to the town, or was there any expectation of the town that it was not going to exceed 2?
Yeah, I mean, the town received a copy of my staff report, and as part of the town's approval, their conditions was limited to 2 horses in the information that we received back from them. But as I read the ordinance, the maximum number is to be specified by the zoning committee. And again, my conditions in my staff report are possible conditions. And the only reason I bring it up is if Mr. Cummings 5 years down the road and, his wife, decide, it'd be really nice to have 1 more horse. I'd hate to drag them back in through a conditional use permit here to have 1 more horse.
Yeah.
If the intent is to, okay, well, we'll never have more than 3. Why is, just give them the 3 now and not, bring them back through, as opposed to, well, 2 works for us right now, but, situations may change. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I agree. And from that makes sense. That it would be unfortunate if they have to come back in just for 1 more. However, I'm just pulling up the ordinance to make sure, because if the town's approval is affirmatively required and not just a recommendation, if the town's approval was for 2, then I think we are, zoning committee is obligated to have no more than, its decision be no more than 2. But let me just pull up the ordinance here and look at the language. So you guys can keep chatting and discussing if you like.
Mr. Ringheimer?
I was echoing what Jay said. I mean, my experience has been that horses will grow. And I think there's an efficiency, and if we can get them approval for 3, I think that's a cleaner way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we're just waiting to see if the town is a requirement.
Correct.
Okay.
May I ask, Kay, was that firm at the township? You're on the town of Round Lake, correct?
I am, and there was no firm number. We did discuss more horses, but since he had applied for 2, we were agreeable to 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the ordinance that it requires town approval, but it doesn't say town approval with conditions. It says horses shall be permitted only on lots where a conditional use permit has been granted with town approval or on agricultural zone lands. In acting on any conditional use permit for horses, the zoning committee may impose such conditions. Number of horses, the maximum number shall be set by the conditional use permit and shall be dependent on specific site characteristics and conditions of the permit. I don't foresee any issues there, but I'll default to legal.
Yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and take your vote, go ahead and do so, and I'll look at this. I don't want to hold up the meeting. I will look at this because there's another section I want to double check too in relation to what we're reading from 4.6. So why don't you guys move ahead with your decision, and then if I identify an issue, I will raise it before the end of the meeting and we can always go back to this item. But again, I don't want to hold up your meeting while you sit and wait for me to look this up.
Thank you.
I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna say, there's sufficient land there for a lot more horses. I mean, I'm not trying to say extend it out further, but I mean, the land's there to accommodate many, many more horses, so.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the site slopes and, the woodedness of that area, yeah, would allow for additional horses. So, yeah, I'll leave it up to the committee.
Jay, do we have any documentation from the town? Like, I didn't see that in the
No,
pack.
so we generally wouldn't scan that in and that we get it, just a few days usually before the public hearing. So I just read that into record. It's in the letter that comes from the town. And again, as part of that letter, motion was to approve. And again, the motion to approve is to having horses within the forestry zone district. And then there's an additional sheet that it's approved with the following conditions. And one of those conditions is limited to 2 horses.
Do you have that, or does Kathy have that available? Can you forward that to me on an email so I can look at it?
Yeah, after the meeting. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you had it.
No, I don't think I have this digitally scanned and filed right now. We just have the hard copies here.
Okay.
And I don't know if you heard Miss Wilson's comments. She's on the town of Round Lake, and she stated what they understood at the meeting. And I don't know if you were at that moment listening, but she stated that it was only because he asked for 2. But I think, if I'm understanding you correctly, you would have approved more if he had asked for more.
Personally, I would have.
Okay.
They have a gelding and they have a mare.
Mhm.
Having had horses in my life,
Mhm.
all of a sudden, let's,
Mhm.
have another, so.
Sure.
Yeah, this is a situation that all of the common sense and all of the rationality leads to the conclusion that the committee should be able to set the condition as 3. But when I look at the language of 4.61, it says horses shall be permitted where a conditional use permit has been granted or on ag lands with town approval. So even though we have the next sentence allowing the zoning committee impose conditions, it's still qualified by town approval. So if town approval doesn't match the zoning committee conditions, there's an issue, because one could argue now, and again, who would argue this? We don't know. But again, the argument could be made that the zoning committee conditions does not match the town approval. So, and this is a classic situation of, is there a risk if you move ahead? Yes. But does it make more sense for the committee to just move ahead with its decision? Again, based on, what Ms. Wilson articulated and, given what everyone's understanding is. I just want to make sure that I do my job and explain what the legal risk is. And the legal risk is based on the language of 4.6, if the town approval does not match this committee's approval, there could be an argument that it was not approved, the CUP wasn't approved.
I have an excellent get out of jail free card here. We at the zoning committee set a condition that if there is to be more than 2 horses or to have that 3rd additional horse, it requires town approval. Not as a new CUP, but just going back to the town for town approval.
Perfect.
Any further discussion?
No, I'll make a motion that we approve. What CUP number are we at?
CUP 23027.
Yep, approved 23-027 with the language Jay just reiterated, with the approval 1 through 9 and the staff report requirements. And what else, Jay?
Property.
That
Yeah,
does the conditional use permit go with?
follow the property.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Oh, the town felt that this was so unique in the forest zone district that we wanted it to go with the property owner. And if the next property owner came up, we would re-examine what their wishes and would be for the property. So we wanted it to go with the young couple that bought this property.
Well, for now it is. So that's good. All right, no further discussion?
No, I mean, at this point, yeah, as part of the conditions, it would go with the property. And that the maximum number would be 3 as set by the zoning committee. 2 is permitted. If that third one is requested, it would have to go back to the town for town approval.
Or any amount over 2,
Any amount over 2.
correct? It doesn't have to be specific to 3.
Well, I guess you would still want to set a maximum at the zoning committee.
All right,
Well, there's a maximum within the ordinance, correct?
No, it's
So that-
maximums determined by you.
so you didn't
Oh,
state that in your
I
motion,
did
so I
not.
want to make that clear. Can it be any amount?
Up to
over
7
2?
or 8, I heard you mention that number. You know,
I don't know. I'm not an expert on horses.
Okay,
and
I'll give a maximum of 8 horses then. Okay,
But any over 2 would require additional town approval.
correct.
Okay.
Is it the committee's intent then, the CUP run with the land? And that if it is to only run with the owner, it has to go back to the town if that was one of the town conditions? Because now we're in the same pickle that we were in.
Yeah.
Number of
Right.
horses.
Right. And I know Miss Wilson just added that information, but I could amend my motion as well, that the CUP with this owner and not follow the property, and then the town board.
Yeah.
What do you think of that,
If
Jay?
you want.
Are you
I
okay
like
with
that.
seconding that amendment?
So then initially it was that it would go with a sale. And now we're saying it would not go with a sale. I mean, for
You mean a
efficiency-
future sale?
For future sale. So
Right.
a new owner would have to, so the property's established, paddocks, stalls, arenas. And a new owner comes and buys it, and they would have to get a new approval to house horses there?
So again, you could structure it 2 ways. Either A, they would need a new conditional use permit, or similarly to over the maximum number of 2, that it would have to go back to the town for town approval. At that point, you're setting the conditional use permit runs with the property, but if there is a new owner, the town wants to hear it back, and the town would have to approve the new property owner and over a number of 2.
And that's the wishes of the town, Miss Wilson?
Yes, they wanted it to go with the property owner, not the property.
Got it.
And that was stated in their report?
It was.
Okay.
Well, if there's a second, I would amend it to include
That's,
that.
it's creating more inefficiency. I mean, if they put investment to that property, somebody wants to buy that's going to be into horses as well. And now, and they may, well, I guess it's, they may have a difficulty selling the property then, I guess.
Let's
you
not
don't-
talk over people.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to make sure everybody's heard correctly and not be disrespectful.
But John, you don't know that they're going to do anything more than a stall and water for these horses and fencing, and the fencing could be for anything. So I think you're presuming.
Well, and again, to at least have efficiency through at least county government, again, you could structure the approval that the conditional use permit run with the property, but if the property is to be sold, again, it requires town approval. That way they don't have to come back and get an additional conditional use permit through the zoning committee aspects, but they would at least have to, show good faith with the town and saying, yeah, we want to continue to have horses here. We're only going to have, 2 or 3 horses. And I think really at that point, you solve all issues. That's my 2 cents again.
And that's how I amend my motion.
Okay. And you're okay with seconding that amendment? Okay. All right. Hearing no further discussion.
Wait, Stacy, I'm sorry,
Oh.
to interject. I would just recommend that you confirm with the applicant that the applicant is okay with that and understands what the process would be.
The applicant has made a verbal thumbs up and let the record reflect.
Thank you.
a visual thumbs up.
All right, again, with no further discussion and with approval from the applicant, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Kay Wilson,
Yes.
Michael Maestri,
Yes.
Tweed Schuman.
Yes.
Stacy Hessel,
Yes,
John Righeimer. All in favor.
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience getting through that one as well. This is a public hearing in the town of Lenroot, conditional use permit number 23-028. Owner Hayward Snowmads Snowmobile Club, Inc. Agent was originally as a John Welter. I do believe now it is Doug Mirotek, part of the southwest one quarter, the southeast one quarter, section 21, township 41 north, range 8 west, parcel 014-84221-4302, tax ID 17148. There's 15 total acres zoned to agricultural 1. Permit is desired for the Hayward Snowmads storage building, which is to be 40 feet by 60 feet by 19 feet in height, subject to section 17.4, parent B, parent 13, parent 18, parent 25 for snowmobile grooming equipment storage. As part of my staff report, again, in per conversations with the applicant, they are requesting a CUP to construct a snowmobile grooming equipment building. There would be no other business or commercial use to occur within this building, and it is per section 17.4 parent B, which are uses authorized by conditional use within the agricultural 1 zone district, which does include mini storage unit warehouses, transportation terminals, or like or similar uses in the opinion of the Sawyer County Zoning Committee, subject to the procedures for obtaining a conditional use permit. While a snowmobile grooming equipment building is not specifically specified under the conditional use permit items, there are several indicated that are like or similar. I have listed possible conditions as part of the staff report. The proposed building is to meet all other setback requirements. Again, as per my staff report, CUP 23-028 would be limited to the property owner for Hayward Snowmads equipment storage only. The size of the building not to exceed 2,400 square feet and be less than 19 feet in height. No habitable area or other commercial use is allowed. All signage must meet the Sawyer County zoning ordinance requirements, and that all other town, county, state, and federal laws are followed, including compliant zoning setbacks. As by action of the town board, motion was approved. Gordy Christians, town chair, Jack Schustrom, supervisor, Jason Schustrom, supervisor, Michael Bandow, supervisor, Ronald Poppy, supervisor. No additional comments. Signed, Carol Stone, town clerk. There were 8 additional notification letters sent out to adjacent property owners. None were returned or received with any additional comments. That is all.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to go into public hearing for the town of Lenroot CUP 23-208.
Motion to go in public hearing.
I'm sorry, 028. And had a moment. Okay. You made a motion. Anyone second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? We are now in public hearing for town of Lenroot CUP 23-028. Is the applicant, oh, sorry. All in favor, aye. Yeah. The applicant here and would like to speak.
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members and others. Doug Mirotek, 9689N Fun Valley Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. Here representing the Snowmads, I am the groomer captain for one of Snowmads being one of 6 snowmobile clubs under the Sawyer County Snowmobile ATV Alliance that we groom 94 miles, roughly 94 miles of the 400 miles of funded trails in Sawyer County. We currently share a building on Ocker Road in the city of Hayward with Snow Trails. Snow Trails grooms the trails south of Hayward over to the Coudray area and down to the Stone Lake area. And Snowmads grooms all the trails north of Hayward to the west to Washburn County, to the north to Bayfield County, and all of the Sealy Hills. We are facing, in the last 4 decades, roughly 40 years that we've shared that groomer shed with Snow Trails, we have expanded our fleet of groomers, taking on more miles of trails within Sawyer County. And we're also faced with the added challenge of obtaining and retaining volunteers to help us groom. And with the current setup and system, we do a lot of maintenance outside in the weather conditions. This would relocate us with the building to house both groomers in a heated facility where we can maintain them right in the hub of where our trail section is. We were looking at and did meet with Greg Peterson about trying to obtain 4 or 5 acres of forestry just to the east of this property and set something up like the Berkey currently has on forestry land. But when this became available, we jumped on this and we thought it was a good way to keep the Sawyer County forestry land in forestry and purchase our own land and go this way.
Any questions for the applicant?
Just so we solidify the record, you've heard my conditions as listed in my staff report as you as the acting agent. Are you agreeable to those said conditions?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of CUP 23-028? I keep forgetting to ask if there's anyone online, but
They would pop up or they
okay.
would raise a hand.
thank you.
Yep.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of CUP 23-028? Okay, hearing none. Make a motion to come out of public hearing CUP 23-028.
Yep, I'll make that motion to come out.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action for Town of Lenroot conditional use permit number 23-028, owner Hayward Snowmad Snowmobile Club, Inc. Legal description is previously read into record. This permit is desired for a snowmobile equipment storage building, subject to the provisions of section 17.4, parent B, parent 13, parent 18, parent 25, where again, the conditional use permit allows for many use or many storage warehouse, transportation terminals, or like or similar uses. You would probably want to at least solidify the record, and that zoning committee would see this a snowmobile equipment storage building as a like or similar use to a mini unit warehouse storage and or a transportation terminal, just to solidify that record. And then also as my conditions as listed in the staff report, which the applicant has stated that they are in agreement to.
Mr. Schuman?
Motion to approve CUP number 23-028 with the conditions of Jay's staff report and the findings of facts 1 through 9.
I'll second that, actually. All right. Any other discussion?
And just, yeah, again, that you do see that a snowmobile equipment storage building is a like or similar use to a mini unit warehouse storage and a transportation terminal.
I do.
Okay.
I think you're now married. All right. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Tweet Schuman.
Yes.
Stacy Hessel.
Yes.
Michael Maestri.
Yes.
John Righeimer. Kay Wilson. All in favor.
Thank you. All right. Before we go into new business, can we take a brief potty break?
Sure.
Thank you. Hey, Will. Okay, thank you. I am calling the meeting back to order, and we'll start with new business ordinance amendment for multi-dwelling development.
Yeah, so last month we heard from kind of the towns as to, kind of the route they wanted to see the multi-dwelling development language go. This zoning committee meeting was kind of moved up because of Thanksgiving, the gun deer season holiday. So I have not had time to get a polished ordinance amendment version ready for the committee. I have it on there as a placeholder, but it would be anticipated that for December's zoning committee meeting, we would have a draft version to either make corrections to and then send it to the town. So at this point, there would be no action on that, in that we'll have something ready for December.
Do we need a motion to postpone it then, or you?
No.
We good? Okay.
Nope. For B then, so this was brought to my attention a couple weeks ago, and an individual that wants to do specifically boat storage within a residential recreational 1 zone district. The residential recreational 1 zone district has some language in there for recreational service oriented uses, and I want to read it to you guys here, so give me a second. So again, uses authorized by conditional use within the RR1 zone district does allow for recreational service oriented uses such as restaurants, cocktail lounges, marinas, sports shops, bait sales, and other recreational services, which in the opinion of the county zoning committee are in the same general character or clearly incidental to a permitted use or use authorized by conditional use. And this individual that had come in was wondering, well, can just a boat storage building meet those requirements as a conditional use permit within the RR1 zone district? Past practice, past policy of the zoning department would be no. In that boat storage, we've specifically only seen within a commercial zone district, and then also within an agricultural zone district as a conditional use permit. And then an agricultural zone district does have allowances for, again, mini unit warehouse storage. We had discussions with the committee, oh, this is probably a year ago, as what's the definition of a mini unit warehouse storage? Mini might be 20 by 20 for you. Mini for me might be 200 by 200. So we just said, okay, well, mini is not really a good word. We'll allow for storage buildings within the agricultural zone district with a conditional use permit. Well, now we're starting to see some other individuals that are wanting storage buildings within the residential recreational one zone district. Personally, I would not want to just allow boat storage buildings within the RR1 zone district unless we were to do an ordinance amendment that would specifically put them in as a CUP within the RR1. But it's whether or not there's even appetite with the zoning committee to even potentially allow that. You are starting to see then a mixing of zone districts. I mean, boat storage is really, if you look at the black and white of it, it's a commercial use. Do you want to have that potential crossover of commercial use within a residential recreational one zone district? Boat storage isn't the worst, but I mean, you would anticipate that, yeah, I mean, you'd have people coming in and out to that building. You know, if you got to think, you put yourself as a neighbor next to one of these buildings. I mean, how many different trucks and trailers are going to be pulling in and out, you know, pulling boats in and out next to a storage building that's next to you? Does that meet the intent of the zoning ordinance? Is that to protect, you know, the personal property, welfare, safety, aesthetic beauty of the community? So I at least said that to this individual that had, you know, come to me, that I would bring it to the zoning committee and see what the appetite was for boat storage buildings within an RR1 zone district. And I will leave it up to you to further discuss or ask any additional questions you may have.
I don't see how the townships would allow it. I mean, it does just because of the things that you indicated, but do you guys have any input?
Is there a shortage of boat storage in the county? Is there a thirst for it? Or
I would have said 8 years ago, yes, absolutely 100%. You could have built a boat storage building 8 years ago and filled it right away. Now, over the last, I mean, you've seen the buildings that have gone up. You've seen the other conditional use permits that have come in for those. I obviously there's still some shortage because people are still building them, but I would say we're starting to get a little saturated on that. The complicated thing, at least for me in the zoning realm, is, you know, per those RR1 zone district requirements, with a cup in an RR1, you can do a bar restaurant, you can do a marina, you can do a sport shop, but boat storage isn't specifically listed. Now, I think it would still be hard pressed that if you were, you know, in a very, you know, residential focused area and you came in with a conditional use permit and said, well, you want to open up a marina or you want to open up a bar restaurant, you might have some, you know, tough chance to get that conditional use permit through. But there again is, okay, if you're allowed a marina and if you're allowed a bar restaurant, and that's a mix of commercial and residential, how bad is boat storage? So I'm going to play devil's advocate with myself here on that aspect, but
probably better.
Right. Right. So I mean, those are the tough things with zoning and the tough things with those mixing of uses within those districts.
Why does it have to be specific to boat storage? I mean, couldn't a building be listed as storage units? And then shouldn't it go by size, not, why does it have to be labeled as boat storage or?
Right, and it doesn't.
Okay.
That's at least how it was proposed to me. I mean, yeah, you could have it just as storage. And that's where we see it in other zone districts, is it's specifically listed as mini unit warehouse storage, storage buildings.
Probably a higher need for that in the world anyways.
Right.
Than
But my concern still is, why wouldn't it go by size of the unit? Because wouldn't that be more applicable to the townships to make a decision like, well, this is going to be an eyesore, this is going to cause issues with the, that's what, because it doesn't list a size. So what is the size of that storage building?
Right, and a lot of them, I guess, yeah, it depends on the property, depends on the setbacks, but you're not going to make something small, in that case. I mean, most of the storage buildings that we see are at least 60 by 100, if not more. I think the one that we just approved was somewhere in the realm of like 64 by 144. So I mean, they're large buildings. And I think the thing, again, is, do we want to look at an ordinance amendment? Because I wouldn't want to just arbitrarily say that's a recreational service oriented use, is in your opinion. I would go through the process of doing an ordinance amendment that allows for storage buildings within a residential recreational 1 zone district with the requirements of granting of a conditional use permit. But do we even want to go there is really kind of the question, because you are kind of opening up a little bit of a can of worms in that, yeah, you are having that mixing of.
So now that we don't have
commercial and
anything,
residential.
it can't even be brought up, is what you're saying.
Say that again?
Well, we have nothing right now.
No, it's just discussion and.
No, I'm
No,
just saying,
it's
if we
asking
don't
what's on.
add this, you're saying if we add this, it opens up a can of worms of what?
Allowing storage buildings in residential recreational 1 zone district.
Which we currently allow bars and to at least be applied for the cup.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
this would be allowing people to, hey, I got an idea. I'm going to build a storage building there. I'm going to go get a cup. Doesn't mean they're going to get it.
Correct.
But
But
you're-
cups are a little bit difficult to deny. I mean, you need substantial evidence as to deny a conditional use permit, which again, bar, restaurant, you probably have a little bit more substantial evidence to deny that than just say someone that wants to build a storage building, because you would have to have evidence that says, yeah, there's going to be a decrease in property values because there's now a storage building next to my house. Again, historically, we've never allowed them. We've always said, nope, got to be in a commercial zone district. If you want to do boat storage, you want to do storage buildings, find a piece of commercial zoned land or rezone your property. This individual that's, at least, proposed this to me, I would highly doubt that they would be able to get commercial in this area. It would really be spot zoned. It's all residential around it.
So what I'm going to ask for is a straw poll to see if we want to continue this in discussion, move on with Jay adding that amendment and going forward with that, or do we just want to stop the discussion here? Kay, do you want to start the straw poll?
I'm not interested in having storage buildings in RR1.
John?
I can go either way.
I would have to say, I don't want you to have that additional work, and I don't want the trickle effect that goes on with that. I mean, I think, things are in place. It's good to take a look at unique situations, but I feel like this is just, like you said, opening a can of worms, so.
And like Lynn said yesterday at the meeting, you allow one, then you
It's a
have
trick,
to
yeah.
look at allowing the next guy down the road.
So in this case, what they'd have to do is ask for a rezone. Like if they wanted to, that was what they'd have to do, right? Right.
Yeah, and there's that one potential that, I mean, you can do it in agricultural zone districts, but I don't know why it was ever in the ag zone district, maybe just because you'd have more of land area at that point. To have a storage building on a 40-acre chunk of ag and you want to, do storage, I think that's probably a little bit more palatable than on a 1.5 acre piece of residential surrounded by other houses. Maestri, did you have any comments on that?
I think avoiding the extra work makes most sense.
He said avoiding the extra work makes more sense. So I probably are you assuming for the zoning or are you assuming for everybody involved?
Both.
All right. Well, thank you guys for the discussion.
Yep.
All right. Any other business that comes before the committee? This is just for discussion only. Let me get this Rebecca's follow-up too.
Yeah, Rebecca, did you have any additional info on that other one yet? Or we kind of solidified on the motion that was made that if they're wanting more than 2 horses, or if it's to sell to a different property owner that wants to continue to do horses, it just goes back to the town for town approval. We're good
Yeah,
on that
I
one.
think we're good. The way that the motion was changed, addressed the concern, the issue. So I have nothing else to add. Thank you though.
Thank you. All right. With that being said, can I just adjourn it or do we need to? Oh, adjourned. Thank you. I know. I'm just this. I really have. I know, but I want to be respectful.
You can hit the gavel if you want. We are adjourned.
We are adjourned. And thank you guys for putting up with my learning skills.